Hello world! A database containing the FBI's top secret terrorist watch list, otherwise known as the no-fly list, has been made publicly available on the interwebs by mistake. And a new ransomware operation sees Nigerian scammers trying to recruit employees to infect their own companies in exchange for $1 million. That's in today's episode of The Week Web, where we break down and dissect cybersecurity related tech news. A database containing the FBI's top secret no-fly list has been leaked, seemingly in its entirety. The database, consisting of information on 2 million people, was found by a security researcher on an unprotected server. Not only is this rather embarrassing, it is also potentially pretty bad news. We don't know if anyone with malintent managed to download it before it was scrubbed from the internet, and the FBI is being rather tight-lipped about the whole incident. The no-fly list contains the identities of people suspected or known to be terrorists. The database is maintained by the FBI's Terrorist Screening Center, the TSC. This was all discovered by one Bob, who is the head of security research over at Comparatech, a company which reviews consumer security tools. He found the server containing the loot after it had been indexed by search engines Censys and Zumai. These aren't typical search engines, they're much like Shodan if you're familiar. These search engines index internet-connected devices, such as servers, making it easy to search the interwebs for anything internet-connected based on details such as their OS, location, the software they're running, etc. We are in the dark as to the events which led to Bob's discovery of the server. However, we do know that somehow he managed to stumble across an Elasticsearch cluster that contained 1.9 million publicly viewable records. Elasticsearch allows for quick searching and analysis of large amounts of data, perfect for a database of almost 2 million records. Each record included such information as names, gender, date of birth, passport ID, and no-fly indicator. It quickly dawned on Bob that there was a good chance this was the FBI's terrorist watch list, colloquially referred to as the no-fly list. 1.9 million is a lot of records. That's almost 1 in every 200 people living in the US. As such, in his report, Bob notes, it seems plausible that the entire list was exposed. Interestingly, the server containing the data wasn't even based in the US, instead it had a Bahraini IP address. It's not clear why the server was hosted overseas. Bob says the exposed data was immediately reported to the Department of Homeland Security. However, the server wasn't taken down until 3 weeks later. That's a long time for such sensitive information. This news story didn't quite make it to the mainstream media for whatever reason. With little pressure to explain things, the FBI have gotten away with no comment. So we're left only to guess what the database was doing on a Bahraini server, unencrypted and publicly downloadable by anyone. Also, because the server had already been indexed by search engines, it's possible that someone else more nefarious than Bob managed to download it. But there's of course no way for us to tell if that happened. However, that being said, in the replies to Bob's initial tweet, just after discovering the database, it would seem someone posted a link to it, though there's no indication if this was legit or just a troll, as it has now of course been taken down. A newly spawned ransomware campaign sees Nigerian scammers trying to recruit employees to infect the company they work for with ransomware. The mission, should an employee choose to accept it, comes with an advertised reward of 40% of the ransomware takings. In this case, that's $1 million in Bitcoin. The bad actor has been making contact with potential recruits via their company email addresses. A contact email and telegram are provided. The miscreant also confirms that they're using the Demonware ransomware, otherwise known as Demon and Black Kingdom. This variant of malware made the news earlier this year when it was found to be exploiting the infamous Microsoft Exchange vulnerabilities. This malware isn't all that cutting edge, it's pretty shoddily put together, but more on that in a bit. This new campaign was discovered by Abnormal Security, which is an email security platform. After noticing several of their customers were receiving these emails, they decided to investigate further. Abnormal goes on to explain how they constructed a fictitious persona and reached out to the actor on Telegram to see if they could get a response, and added, "The resulting conversation gave us an incredible inside look at the mindset of this threat actor." The fiend who responded goes by the name Pablo. After checking if Abnormal had access to their company's Windows server, he proceeded to send over one WalletConnect.exe hosted on Mega and WeTransfer. This was, surprise surprise, ransomware. Pablo suggested either deploying the ransomware remotely or via a malicious USB stick. However, it quickly became apparent that the figure of $1 million advertised in the original email was just bait. Abnormal explained that their fictitious company had an annual revenue of $50 million, at which point Pablo suggested they should go with a ransom of just $120K. The low ransom, as explained by Pablo, was due to him just being a little considerate for them. Lol. In reality, you're much more likely to have a ransom of 120K paid compared with a ransom of a few million. I imagine he went for this just to maximize the chances of actually receiving anything at all. The only thing Pablo suggested Abnormal should do to cover their tracks was to delete the exe after running it. Abnormal tried to probe a little deeper and learn a bit about the ransomware itself. Pablo said he programmed the software using Python. However, this seems to have just been an attempt by Abnormal to stroke Pablo's ego a bit, butter him up for what was to come next, because as Abnormal explains in their report, after analyzing the exe, all of the code for Demonware is freely available on GitHub. Ransomware as a Service Net is open source, meant to be a proof of concept project illustrating how simple ransomware is to make. It's written in Python, as such it'll run on Windows, Mac and Linux. It even has a nice little web interface, but as the developer explains, this script is for research only. Pablo has essentially ripped off this code and repurposed it for malintent. The conversation with Pablo continues. He explains he scraped a bunch of corporate emails from LinkedIn and focused his attention on CFOs and CEOs, but Abnormal wanted to learn a bit about the man behind the operation, Pablo himself. They did some open source research to see if they could get any clues about his identity. The username from the ransomware email matched a profile on a Russian social media platform, which was tied to a Nigerian phone number. At this point, Abnormal turned the tables. Using social engineering tricks to elicit personal information from the miscreants, Abnormal said, "How do I know you aren't going to screw me?" Pablo tried to instill some trust in his would-be recruit by linking his own LinkedIn profile, which confirmed he was the CEO of an African social networking platform. However, it seems to be only a startup project rather than something well established. Pablo, which we now definitively know is merely a made-up name, if there was any doubt, even went on to claim he's the next Mark Zuckerberg. Pablo quickly realized his mistake in revealing his true identity and deleted those messages, but not before Abnormal could take some screenshots. This is where Abnormal's report ends. We don't know if they just dropped the conversation here or actually went on to break the bad news to him. This case is reminiscent of that one time last year when a Russian criminal tried to recruit a Tesla employee to install malware on Tesla's systems. In that case, they planned to exfiltrate sensitive documents and use them to extort the company for a multi-million-dollar ransom demand. Unfortunately for Igor Igorovich Kryshkov, the miscreant in that saga, the Tesla employee wasn't swayed by the $500,000 bribe and instead turned him into authorities. If you enjoy this kind of video, make sure to help me out by tickling the like button for the YouTube AI, as well as turning on those sub notifications. If you're looking for something to watch next, go check out my previous video on how the dark web's most infamous marketplace has returned, though suspected by some to be an FBI honeypot. As always, sources will be linked in the video description. Stay tuned for more hacking videos, and have a good one.